We are
We're
live.
live again.
Yes. Hi, y'all. This is Halisi.
And this is Rick from our Black Utopia. Welcome.
He got it right today. He got it right today. On this channel, we talk about travel, money, retiring abroad on our way to generational wealth.
And maybe even retiring early.
Oh, that's right. And retiring early. All right. So, what are we going to talk about today?
Today, we're going to talk about real estate investing and early retirement, or real estate investment and not retiring early.
Whatever you want to do. And
Whatever
we've
you
got
want.
all of our YouTube things popping up here. So I'm just going to close that. If you hear the bing, that's what that is. So without further ado, we are going to bring on a very special guest. This person has purchased, I don't know, too many units in his lifetime for me to count. I know right now he owns over 30 units and has retired early with his family. And so we're going to bring on, without further ado, AJ Vinson. Hey, AJ.
Hey, AJ.
Hey, how you doing
How
today?
you doing? Good, good.
You may notice, yes, we do have the same last name. This is my first cousin. He is brilliant. I have known that he has been doing this for at least since the beginning of 2000 or the end of the 90s. Did I ask him how? No, I did not. Did I say, wow, I wish I could do that? Yeah, I did. But then did I ask how?
I always thought we said it must be nice.
We did say it must
We
be
did say
nice.
that, didn't
We
we?
did say it must be
Shame-
nice. Shame on
shame on
us. Shame. Oh, Venus is here. Shame on us. So we are going to say hello to everyone in the chat when we get to that part. But right now, we want AJ to introduce himself, tell us all about what it is that he does today, yesterday, and what he's planning for tomorrow. Go for it.
Okay, yeah, I'm AJ. Real name is Andrew Vinson, but all my friends call me AJ, so feel free to call me AJ. I currently own a jewelry and coin store here in Indianapolis, Indiana. I used to be a fiber optics engineer up until 2017, and I pretty much retired from that and was able to do that because of my real estate portfolio that I had acquired over about 15 years. So I was working. I liked my job, being a fiber optics engineer, but it was just a job. I did it for the money. And my hobbies, I have a lot of hobbies, but one of them was coin collecting since I was young. So I was able to retire early and open a store of my dreams and 5 days a week now. And it doesn't feel like work anymore because it's, jewelry and coins. And I still maintain many of my properties. I sold. When I started, I sold about 7 properties that my wife told me I had to do because she knew I was gonna. she knew I was gonna be working real hard to get the jewelry store up and going. So some of my time would be, and these were the properties that were further away. So
Okay.
I sold about 7 in 2017, but I still maintain right now just over 30 doors now. And those are the ones closer to the house that we're able to keep track of. So that's what's going on.
With 2 young kids, we know that can be difficult.
Right.
So we are definitely going to get into the real estate specific questions.
Okay.
But there are some other things that I wanted to ask you before we get into that about early retirement and Sundays. And for us, or I'm going to speak for myself. For me, the work week began around noon on Sunday. Mentally, right? Like I started getting, okay, what am I going to wear tomorrow? And is everything washed or whatever, clean, dry cleaned, and all of this stuff. And then about 4:00, I'd start getting depressed because I knew I had to go to work the next day. And I really only had a day and a half to like do my hobbies, to do life, to do fun stuff, right? And so 2017, you stopped working for the job that you like.
Yeah, I did. I did it
So
for 20 years.
were Sundays like that for you, or did Sundays change for you?
Okay, so the one thing about having my real estate business on the side, I never really felt the pressure as some of the other engineers at work when you would hear about layoffs or stress at the job. I wasn't as stressed as the other people because I had multiple sources of income, but I still did have a job to do, and I was on call being an engineer every third week. So those weeks, you were in bed and you were hoping you didn't get called out in the middle of the night and things like that. So absolutely, Sunday came around and I was thinking, man, this kind of sucks. Sunday night, I'm gonna have to go to bed early. You got to think about whatever that job was the next day that you had to perform, and it could be a little stressful. So absolutely, got rid of that though.
So what do Sundays feel like for you now?
I decided that my store wouldn't even be open on Monday. So I'm just Tuesday through Saturday. Saturday is a short day at the jewelry store. But yeah, so Sunday for me is like I guess a Saturday for most of the people in the US, because I'm hanging out, relaxing with the fam and doing some things. No stress at all.
Right? Isn't it nice?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It actually is nice.
So all of that upfront work, because we're not going to kid you guys, being a real estate investor and being the person who is actually managing, not outsourcing that, is not easy. We're not here to tell you that it's easy and that, oh, now everything's going to be smooth sailing and this and that and the other. However, you do have more control over your future income when you own real estate. So with that, and it's interesting, I'm going to say this last thing, and if you want to chime in, please do.
Okay.
You didn't feel the stress on your job. So maybe that's why you stayed so long, right? Like it's easy to stay when you know you ain't got to be there.
That is so right. I was doing it. I
You
thought
walk
about
in with a different
Yeah, you do. And I was there because I liked the insurance that I had. And some of my good friends that knew I had income outside of the place, they would say, look, what are you even doing here? I said, well, the insurance is good and I like what I do. I liked it. So yeah, it's just a whole different feeling. And I know that, for instance, one of my best friends still works in the industry. And when layoff time, when you would hear about layoffs maybe coming up, things weren't going so well, everyone would be so stressed out. And I would be thinking, oh, that sounds like a nice severance coming my way if I get laid off. So no stress at all, because I was like, okay, I just won't work here anymore. So yeah, it's a whole different energy that you have throughout the week and throughout your days, for sure.
So Rick and I borrowed a term from other folks, and we say that's when you have FU money. Save up your FU money, because when you have it, you walk into your job with a different attitude. You say, I am here because I choose to be here, not because I have to be here. And that's a whole different feeling. I'm telling you. So we see that we've got folks watching, and so we want you to tell us where you're watching from. We are here in Los Angeles. Andrew is in Indianapolis, Indiana. I know Venus. She's so good. She is every week. She shows up and she is on point, and we love you for it and we thank you. You are always here watching, but we know we've got other folks watching as well. So chime in the chat, and because I want to see if I'm getting the chat from Facebook and from LinkedIn. So if you're watching us on Facebook, hi. If you're watching us on LinkedIn, what's up? Hey. Quit that job. That's what the folks on LinkedIn want to hear, right? Quit that job. And we're going to show you how. So yeah, let us know where you're logging in from. If you've got questions, put them in the comments. For those folks who emailed, so I sent out an email asking for questions. I didn't get any. So that means folks just know what's going on. They know what's happening, which is interesting because interest rates are up and inventory is down. So before we get into the nitty gritty, I'm going to start with the first question that we have up from the Burbs of Chicago. Show that. Not before 10. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. I remember asking, was that I don't get up before 10? Don't ask me nothing before 10. Like what does not happen before 10? And whatever it is, I'm down. I'm definitely down. Syracuse. So my nephew just graduated from Syracuse University. If you're watching out there, Mr. Fountain, congratulations.
Congratulations.
On graduating. And we got Dallas, Texas in the house. Yay. And Vegas is in the house. Darren Miller.
That's your buddy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember seeing,
Didn't I see Darren?
I remember when we went to the wedding.
That's right.
And he announced that he was the was he weather?
He was a
weather
meteorologist
for the news.
first. Yes,
Meteorologist.
Yes,
Yeah,
he was on buses. He was on buses. And
his face was
all
everywhere.
Yeah, his face was everywhere.
So we were amongst Las Vegas royalty. I didn't realize.
I remember.
Okay. Hi, Darren. Welcome. Okay, we're going to get right to it. For someone who has never owned property and wants to make I'm looking at my notes to the side, guys, and wants to make their first purchase of a duplex, triplex, or fourplex in order to fray their monthly costs, their monthly bill. What should they consider, which they're probably not thinking about if they only considered a single family home before now?
Well, first thing they should do is consider how they're going to finance the property. So if you're buying like a home, let's say you're just someone out there and you want to buy a home, you can get really good, basically interest rates or better interest rates from the bank. They might give you 5%, if you're a first time home buyer, something like that. But if it's an investment property, really none of the banks now want to give you more than better than 15% down. So you have to plan on putting more down for an investment part. It's more of a risk to the bank. And before the original recession in 2008, I used to buy investment properties and I would only put 5% down. Those days are over. If it's an investment property, they're going to want at least 15%. So you got to think, is this something that if it's just an investment property and you're not going to live in it, think about, you have to save up enough. So let's say that property is, just to say it was 100,000.
Yeah.
They would want you to put
easy
15, easy math. They would want you to put 15,000 down. But if it was a home that you were moving in, then they might only want 5,000 down. So you're going to need more money for that investment.
Okay. So what if they were this is their first property and they're going to live in one of the units and then rent out the other units, so that they're trying to, we call this house hacking, where you try to live rent or mortgage free.
So that's what I advise. I have a lot of people that I talk to about real estate, and I always advise that, especially in Indianapolis where the cap rate's so good. But yeah, if you can buy a double and then live on one side and maybe fix up the other side or rent out the other side, that is the best thing to go, because you can still get that great down payment. So they would only require less down. So you can actually do that as long as it's not more than 4 units. If it was 5 units, they're going to consider that a commercial property, and they're not going to give you that low down. But yeah, if it's 4 or less, you can do that. Absolutely. That's the way to go.
So the key is 4plex or less, you can get a traditional residential home loan. They don't necessarily consider investment property if you're going to live in it. But once you go to 5 units or more, regardless of whether you're going to live in a
commercial,
it's a commercial. You got to get a different kind of loan, more qualifications, more hassles, more pain in the butt.
And let me get one more caveat to that. If it's considered commercial, they're going to want 20% down. So if it's an investment property, but it's not a commercial property, but if you consider it an investment, they're going to want 50. But if it's 5 units or more, that's commercial, they're going to want 20% down. So you got to think about all the money that you have to save up for that.
So a question, something that I used to always hear years ago, but I'm assuming it's no longer a valid thought, is how they used to always say, all the people used to get on TV and selling their programs and stuff, and always used to talk about zero down. Is that even possible anymore?
No, not an investment property. Absolutely not.
Okay.
What about for your own home, whether it's a single family home? Say you're going to buy a single family home or a duplex. You're going to live in one unit. Do loans with zero down let's say you have to buy it basically at market. You're not getting a discount. No money down? Does that exist anymore?
I don't believe so. No. I haven't heard of it. No bank's going to want to do that. It's just too risky for the bank, because now you can just walk away and you have no sweat in the game. So
Right.
yeah, the banks don't like that. They want to see some sweat in the game. They want to see that you're serious about this. And that is why they're requiring so much down now, because so many people walked away from their homes in 2009, 2010,
Right.
when the last
That's
real
right.
estate recession happened.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So, a way to get away with buying a piece of property with zero down is to buy it for 5 to 20% less than it is valued at. So, one of the properties that we bought, we got it actually for 60% of its value. So, we didn't have to come out of pocket.
Okay.
That's, you know,
And
it's
this,
hard to
okay,
do,
so
but it's
how
possible.
did that, something like that in this situation today with real estate would have to somehow fall in your lap? Like maybe you had a family
Exactly.
friend,
A family member or something.
yeah, a family member, something like that, because you just don't see those kind of deals anymore. I used to see them back in 2008. They were throwing properties at me back then because I was a qualified buyer. But yeah, those days are gone as far as just falling into that kind of luck very
Yeah.
often.
Yeah, you really have to. I've heard of the situations where you've rented grandma's house, grandma
Mm-hmm.
passes, the kids, grandkids, nobody's interested. They're just like, what do you want it for?
Right.
And so if you're lucky enough to be in one of those kind of situations
Right.
these days, now next year, who knows what's going to happen with the economy,
That's
this and
true.
that, and some inventory might open up. But right now, yeah, it's a hit and miss to get
Right.
something
It's
that
tough
far
out there.
under
Yes.
market value, especially if it's not a shack. Like if it's run down
Right.
and it probably should be destroyed anyway, maybe you can. But then they're
And
going to say the land is worth this amount of money.
exactly, even the shacks now, depending on what state you're in. But I will say
Yeah.
this: I used to, from about 2007 to 2012, I was buying at least, I would say, 4 properties a year, and that's all I could do. I mean, I was putting as much money that I had into those properties because I knew they were, really undervalued at the time. But since then, since the properties real estate has gone, crazy, I'm buying about, maybe if I can get a quality deal somewhere, maybe about one every year and a half. That's as
Wow.
much as because the numbers have to work for me for it to make sense.
Okay, well,
So
let's talk about that. What do you mean the numbers have to work? Here I am, a newbie. I own a home. I know how to make those numbers work because I can afford to pay the mortgage.
right.
So what do you mean the numbers have to make sense? Walk us
So
through that.
I feel like a lot of people, where they made the mistake back in the last real estate recession, is because the value of the properties were going up and the equities were going up. People felt like they could buy a house and they didn't really care how much money they made over the mortgage, as long as that property kept going up in value. And sometimes it was going up, what, $20,000 a quarter. Every couple of months it was up another 20,000. So they could
Right.
refi it, take money out, and that's why they were buying the properties. But that is not the way to buy properties, because when the market goes the other direction, then you find yourself in deep, deep trouble. So the goal still, and always has been for me and my mentor, that when I started in 2005, really buying investment properties, was we wanted to make $350 per unit over the mortgage. So if I was buying a double, and this is going back 15, 16 years ago, but
Right.
if I was buying a double, I wanted to make $350 per side, so $700 a month after all my bills and everything were paid. That was the profit on that monthly mortgage. So that was always the goal. So I had to make sure when I'm looking at a property, I have to know what the mortgage is going to be, taxes, insurance, basically. And we're not talking about what the fixed up cost is, because that was something different. But once you have it all ready and done, you should be making X amount of dollars over the mortgage. And I kept to that. And that's why when 2008 hit and everyone started losing their properties, I wasn't concerned, because I was making my $350 a unit on every unit. So I was cash flowing. So it didn't bother me at all that the properties went down. All I did for me was like, oh, I could buy more properties right now. And then when the properties go up, my mentor told me, always that's just the icing. The properties that over time will go up because it's real estate. But don't depend on that. Just depend on the cash flow. And that's what I did. And that is still the key to this day. When I look at properties, like I said, I only buy about one a year, one every maybe year and a half, because it's so hard to make those numbers work now because the properties are so high to purchase. But they still are out there. You just got to, take your time and don't rush into something, because real estate, I have a lot of friends that lost everything on real estate because they over leveraged themselves, they rushed into stuff, and they had all these properties, and now they're all gone. And I'm still going strong because of my method was the cash flow method. And now, yes, of course, over 15 years, the equity and the property values have all skyrocketed, and that's great. That looks great on paper, but I'm still cash flowing. And the rents go up, over time with inflation. So it might have started at $350 per unit, but then over time, now you might be getting $500, $600, $700 per unit if you've owned a property for 15 years.
AJ, so did you go to school? How many degrees do you have to learn how to do this?
I got an AS for computer science. I never got a bachelor's, or I never went to college for 4 years. I went to college for 2 years.
Okay, folks, you do not need a bachelor's degree to be a millionaire.
No.
You see this, folks. All this talk about college and this and that and the other, all the parents who are out there saying, I cannot retire because my kid needs to go to college. I want you to rethink that, or rethink how that gets paid for. Can you buy a duplex in the city that your kid wants to live, and now housing and board and all of that is taken care of because somebody else's parents are paying for that? There are ways to do this thing, and you don't have to have your kid get out of college with $50,000 worth of debt in order to have that good job and to make good money. This is 2022, and there's lots of ways to do this. And we are talking to someone who is a millionaire on paper anyway, and does not have a bachelor's degree. So learn from the masters, baby. Take the shortcut. We've got AJ here. Learn from the master. Ask your questions. Put them in the chat. Yay. We have Black women build wealth. That's what I'm talking about.
Black men too.
Black folks building wealth. That's what this channel is all about. We're about making sure that the next generation does not have to start from scratch. AJ has two young, beautiful, my cousins, beautiful kids who will not have to start from scratch as we did, because AJ made great decisions in his young adulthood and did not spend more than he made. He did not spend more than he made, like his other cousin, his big cousin, and had to learn late. Yeah. But I was paying my bills on time. My bills were paid. My credit score was good up in here. What about yours?
Yeah, I made sure the payments were there and stuff like that. But
at least the minimum.
Oh yeah, even when it was at that point. But man, it feels a whole lot better to have them all paid off and not have that debt at all. So you can invest in other things. You can invest in real estate.
Right.
In income properties and
things like that. And I want to ask you about the maintenance, but before I get to that, so not having credit card debt means that if someone moves out of one of our properties, we can cover that mortgage. Today, tomorrow, next month, next year, we can cover that mortgage for at least 2 years with no problem, just that mortgage and some, right? Like, so we learned. It took us a minute to learn. We weren't as young as AJ, unfortunately, nor as cool, nor with as much swag. But we learned. So AJ, so we should think about our investment properties in terms of cash flow, not in terms of just the equity that's going to build over time, because we know how that goes. And when you might need that equity, it might not be available.
Right.
So,
correct.
But people have to have a place to live, and they have to be able to pay rent. Professor LCH is here. So tell me, Is there a formula for how much a person should put aside for unplanned maintenance, for maintenance in general, etc.?
I think that if you're able to buy a property, and the key is if you're buying it, does it need a rehab? Because I used to buy properties and we would have a budget for the rehab.
Okay.
So we would fix that property as close to new as possible. And I
Mhm.
wasn't too worried about issues happening right away. I mean, they do happen, AC might go out or something like that. But if you're buying a property and you don't have the budget to do the rehab and you're just trying to go in there and you're gonna
Put
need
some lipstick on
thousands
it.
of dollars. Yeah, you're gonna need thousands of dollars in the bank, and that's why you can't just buy all these properties like in a row. You have to build
Right.
it. So I would buy, when I first started, I buy a property and then I'm making money and I build it up because things would happen and you might need to use that money before you buy your next property. But if you just try to buy a property and then rent it out and buy another one, how are you going to keep having the down payment? So you got to
Right.
keep, you have to keep investing that money back into your own business. But yeah, I think you definitely need to have a budget put aside for things that happen. Don't go out and buy a property and spend all your money on that one property and have nothing left in the bank. Because what if you don't get a tenant? What if something happens to that property and you're 2 or 3 months you don't have a tenant? You're going to be in trouble. So no, definitely cash. Cash is the key. You got to have that, and you know what? You do have those credit cards for emergencies. I had credit cards that when maybe I didn't have enough cash back then when I was kind of over leveraging myself when I was younger. But I would put stuff on credit cards. If I needed a new AC, and then I would just pay it off. With that income, pay that off right away, and then wait for the next disaster to come and be ready for it.
Yeah, and that's
Right?
and that's the key. The key you just said, you do it, but you pay it off and be prepared for
Pay
the
it
next
off.
emergency, folks. As we've
Absolutely.
been saying over and over again, credit cards are a tool if you
Right.
use them
Absolutely.
as a tool,
Right.
Yeah.
and to make sure they're short-term loans. That's all they are.
That's what
But
they are.
they want you. The credit card companies want you to
They
pay the
want you to max them
minimum.
up if you can. Right.
Yeah,
They would
max
love
them
for you
up
to
and
max
pay
them
the
all up.
minimum on
And
them
pay the
because
minimum.
that's how they make their money.
Right.
But
Yep.
credit card companies don't like people like us because
Yeah.
we pay it
No.
off.
Yes.
Right.
What they call people like us, they call us deadbeats
Yeah.
because we pay off the
We pay it
because
off.
we pay off the car.
So
Right.
So not
not before 10
Yeah.
is asking the question, are you actively managing your properties or do you use a property manager?
So I think right now, because I have a commercial property that I bought about a year ago. When I finish that's 5 units. So when we finish that one, we're going to have about 30, right about 35. So I'm managing about 30 and I'm doing it all myself. I've never hired a management property company because for one, it costs money. For two, what I found and some of my friends that were landlords is they were just throwing tenants in those properties and not screening them properly. And then when things would go wrong, let's say you have a bad toilet or something that needs a repair, I could go in with one of my contractors, check it out myself, and say, okay, it's gonna be about $95 to fix that. But they were just calling up a company, going there, and then you get a bill for $3 on something that should have been $95. So I stayed away from the man, and I'm not saying they're all bad. I just was able to handle it myself. I had an engineering job where I was not in an office all day, and I could check, if I needed to run by a property, I could check things out. So yeah, I'm managing all the properties, always have since 2005, and I don't mind it at all. I'm able to screen my tenants properly, so I know who's in there. They know me personally. And if you need to communicate with them, you just feel a little bit more comfortable than having that buffer. Now, I think any more than 30 properties, I would have to get a management company, and that's why I sold 7 when I opened my jewelry and gold business, because it was too much to manage if I was going to be also doing the jewelry store. But yeah, management companies, if you can find someone that you think is quality, and maybe you just have them manage a few and then you manage a few, but you want to stay in the game so you're fresh. You have the contacts with contractors. They know you, and you can, move and make moves if you have to.
Yes. I'll give you guys a story. So one of the other real estate investors that I know of, she manages the properties. She has her properties listed in different classes. So the properties that rent for the most, that have the most stable tenants, that don't cause a lot of issues, they're going to be in there 2, 3, 4 years. She manages those. The ones that have more turnover, the rent is lower, and they're probably going to have more problems with the tenants and this and that. She lets the property managers do that because they usually charge a percentage of the rent. And
That's correct.
Lower rents, lower charges. So over here, they're getting paid, say, $500 a month to do hardly anything for the no problem children.
Right.
And, and only $100 for the problem children. So let them take the problem children for the $100 if that's what you need to do. And so I thought that was an interesting strategy.
That is the way. Yeah, that's very smart. Sounds perfect. I got rid of all my problem properties. So
that's a strategy too.
It's a lot of work, and if you don't have the time to handle it, because you spend a lot of time, unfortunately, on the lower rent properties, maybe not the best areas. You spend a lot of time just trying to hustle up and get the rent, because a lot of those people that can't. Their budgets are stressed. They might say like, oh, the rent's, $800, but I have $600 now. Can I pay $200 later? And you spend a lot of time doing that type of thing. And that's just part of the game. You have to communicate with those people, and hopefully you get the money. But yeah, it's a lot of work on some of the lower income properties for sure.
It definitely. Okay, so Professor LCH, welcome. Hi there. I think I saw you this morning. Adults pretend peer pressure isn't a reality. How many of you woke up at a certain age, say 40 or 50, and said, I'm not where I thought I was going to be. I'm not where I should be. That's peer pressure. Did AJ's responsibility and frugality hinder his social or romantic? Look at him. Look at this man. Women are tripping over them. Please. Okay. Hinder his social or romantic relationships in a way that hurt versus helped? Or did he splurge socially? So AJ's married with children now, but
I wasn't for most of that time. Yeah. I've been married now for about 8 years, but for the time that I was buying most of those properties, I had a girlfriend, and I was younger, and I was out hanging out. Believe me, I was hanging out, but I was working on those properties 7 days a week. So I would, maybe leave work, and then I would go and meet with contractors. Or me and my father did a lot of this stuff ourselves early on when we couldn't afford all the contractors. But socially, I was still getting out there. I was still grinding and going, hanging out at the clubs and all of that stuff. And what I found was, the more successful I became, really the more confidence you get. And then also the more people want to be your friend and get to know you, because you have a lot going on. And I always had a lot going on. I always had hobbies and stuff, but real estate, everyone thinks real estate's sexy, right? They think it's easier than it is. So they want to talk to you about it and get to know you for that reason. And so I've had a lot of interesting relationships, mentors. I've even had mentors that are completely bankrupt now. They were guys that I looked up to in the real estate game. Some of them had, millions and millions and millions of properties. And I would go and hang out with these guys, and some of them were flying back and forth to Miami and really hanging out, doing the thing. And some of these guys have no money now, none. Wow. And so I learned from that too. Maybe not that they told me about going broke, but I watched them go broke. Over leveraging and overspending. So yeah, very interesting.
So I'm going to tell you a story that AJ's father told me. So he said when AJ came to him and said he wanted to get into real estate, he said, you're going to have to learn the basics of plumbing and electricity before I give you a dime. That's what he told me. Did he tell you the same thing, AJ?
Well, what as far as the money point, what I had done was I had saved up enough money to buy a few properties that I got started on. But he was teaching me while I was buying those cheaper properties. They were cheaper properties. he was teaching me a lot about stuff that he knew as far as plumbing and electrical.
Yeah.
But then after so many properties, I was putting those down payments. I was out of money, and I was like, Dad, I'm doing really well. Everything's going well, but I don't have any more money right now to buy properties. And there's properties everywhere, they're good deals. So he wanted to make sure that I was knew what I was doing before he put any of his cash in. And he did. I think he might have loaned me money on 2 properties early on when I ran out of cash. And what I did was we rehabbed those together. He saw that I knew what I was doing, and then I bought him out of those.
Okay.
Because my mom didn't want him being involved at all. She wanted Albert. I don't want, if something happens with AJ, I don't want us to be. So I bought
responsible.
Him out of those. Right. And and back then too, I was buying so many properties. I was going to family members. Like, I didn't go to you, Halisi, but I went to my brother, who's the most conservative man in America, and he even gave me, I think, $10,000 once to help me put down some.
I wish you would have, because we had the money sitting in a bank because we didn't know what to do with it. And we did not, we had so much money sitting in a bank, AJ, that should have been sitting at least in a brokerage or in our, it was just sitting there.
We were too busy saving.
Because I just kept saving. Well, and I didn't.
That's what we learned growing up. Yeah, that's what we learned growing up. Just saving. That's how my mom felt. Save it. AJ, you're buying these properties. What is something, she was always worried about me not having so much money in the bank. I'm like, the money in the bank, the interest is so small that you're earning on there. And with inflation, you're actually losing money.
You're losing money.
So I put it all into real estate, and I borrowed from my brother. And my brother, like, my dad didn't charge me interest on the money that he gave me, but
I know Michael Vinson. Michael Vinson charges. Let me tell you, my cousin is so tight. He is so tight that he had the audacity to go to Zales in the mall and try to negotiate the price of a mall diamond ring. When my cousin-in-law showed up to get her ring size, they said, you almost cost me a job. I didn't make any money off of this ring. Let me tell you, a dime will not slip through my cousin's hands without it being real shiny, because he has held on tight. So I know he was charging you interest.
Yeah,
of course he was charging you interest.
And you know what, people...
And we would have charged you interest too.
Well, good, and you should. But the thing is, the more successful people see you, the more everybody wants to give you money. So then I got to a point where people were throwing, like, hey man, because they wanted to make money on the real estate that I was doing. And at one point I was turning money away. Like, I'm good. I don't want to, because you don't want to pay, you don't want to borrow money if you have it yourself. So that's what happens. And even to this day, a lot of people want to do deals with you. They feel like you're successful. They just, the opposite of when you don't have anything, no one wants to give you anything. But now it's really easy for me to get money. Yeah. It's hilarious.
So if there was the three major things, I'm looking at Black women build health, 3 major things that a person would need to be successful in real estate investment. What would you say?
Well, I would say you have to have money that you have saved up, because the banks, like I said, for investment lending, it's not as easy as it used to be. They want you to have your 15% down or whatever like that. So that requires a lot of cash. So save up that money. That's the first thing, and then you got to have the money to if you're doing a rehab, you have to have the money to rehab the property. The other thing that has been so good for me over the years is that time I did put in learning about rehabbing the properties as much as I could, because contractors are out there to make money, and if they feel that you don't know how much something is, then they're going to jack the prices up on you, because they're just going to charge more. And what I used to do is I would say, okay, what's your price? And if let's say he said 400, and I felt like it was too much, I said, oh, I'll just do it myself. And that would scare them. So they'd be, oh, I'll do it for 250, because he will do it himself. And I would do it myself. So I think knowing what costs are in a house, from drywall to all the floor, everything. Learn as much as you can about what's in a home, And you don't have to be an expert, but just know the basics, know how much stuff costs. That's crucial. And even when you're done rehabbing, when something breaks, you want to know what it costs to get it fixed.
Yeah.
And even walking through houses, like, people ask me now, hey, I'm looking at this investment property. Can you just walk through it? Because I'm looking at the things that I know are expensive, and the things that people I bring into property, sometimes they're, oh, it's so ugly. Look at the walls. I'm like, the walls, that's drywall. That's, that's easily fixed.
That's easily. That's lipstick and rouge.
Yeah, lipstick, right. But if you have plumbing issues or electrical issues or foundation issues, even roof issues, those are the things that cost a lot of money. So I would say that. And then I would say, try to have real estate that's near your home. I lived where there was an area that I was buying a lot of properties. It was called Broad Ripple. It's in Indianapolis. And it was about 35 to 40 minutes from where I lived when I moved, because it was a good area to buy properties in. I knew I could get good rent. But what happened was, every time somebody when I needed to show the property, I drive to 35 minutes. Sometimes they don't show up, and all the gas and time it took. So I would say, try to have properties that are in a range that you can get to them, so you can show them, so you can service those properties, and you're comfortable with what's going on in that location. So those are the most important things for me, is those things. Now, of course, when you're buying a property, you got to do the math and make sure it all makes sense. But a lot of the things like that are the things that really come into play later on once you own properties.
Is there a calculation that people can use to say, okay, I should save X amount per square foot for future maintenance?
I never did that for future maintenance, because I think when you find that property that you want to buy, you have to know what type of condition that property is in. Things do happen, but as a whole, if that property is in good shape, if you're going to have a lot of issues with it, or not a lot of issues. And like I said early on, when I was buying property so fast, some of them, because we were on to the next one, we thought, oh, everything's fine, and we didn't really pay attention to everything. And then we ran into problems with those properties later on. It started costing us a lot of money to maintain them. So I would just say, do your homework on that property before you buy it, and budget for that, based on how large, and like you said, square footage. I would just say, how large is the property? How many units is the property? Is it, 1-bedroom apartments, 3-bedroom apartments? Because things go wrong. How many toilets are in that property? Because plumbing
so more about those kinds of things. How many toilets? How many furnaces,
showers,
water
how many
showers,
are leaking, sinks, all of that stuff that can go wrong with the property.
See, this is not obvious.
No, it's not.
Right? These are the things that you have to learn by doing. And AJ is giving us the shortcuts, guys. So don't leave here with questions. If you've got questions,
ask the
questions. Venus said, I learned how to be my own contractor because the price gouging. I love it, right?
Yep,
when we built our house in the mountains, we were our own general contractor. We pulled the license, we pulled the permits and everything because of the amount of money that they wanted to charge us to pull those permits. So, we had to do a lot of homework and had to be on site a lot, etc. But it was worth it. One, because we learned a lot, and two, because it cut costs. So,
absolutely.
Yep. I love it. Okay. How do you choose good tenants?
Wow. There's a few tricks in the trade of the trade. But you also got to do your investigation too. You can't just say someone pulls up and they look clean and nice and think, because I've had people that I thought were so sharp, and then when they move out, I walk into the property and I'm just amazed at how they never cleaned once, or how they were living. It's amazing. So I think, do your homework, find out who their last landlord was, or apartment they lived. Make sure you call them, ask questions about what type of tenants they were. It's not just, did they pay on time? How did they leave the unit? Did they destroy it? Were they partiers? So those are some of the things that you want to make sure. And then one thing that my mentor told me he said, when you're showing a property, maybe walk them out and see what their car, like you could, if you can, look and see what their car is looking like. Because if their car is trashed inside, papers and gunk all over, then you can believe that's how your property is going to be treated. So little things like that, if you can see how their car is, other than just calling their, just see, those things right there are crucial, because people can destroy your property. Do they have pets? Everyone thinks their pets are so cute, but the most damage that I've had done to properties were always from cats. Now I don't allow cats anymore. Yeah, I don't allow cats anymore. No,
cats.
They do. Ooh.
I'm a Leo, so I know. Look, we don't want to be left alone. We don't want to be lonely. We want things how we want it. Don't leave us alone. We will scratch and scratch and scratch that carpet until we pull it up. Okay. We want some attention around here. Don't be leaving us alone. Yeah,
well, there's something to, I hate even saying this, but cat urine, there's something to it. It's beyond, what dog,
it is. And they know it.
Level. Yeah,
and they use it as a weapon. They do.
Mm-hmm.
Because when my cat would get upset with me, he'd go into our son's bed and pee in his bed.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And what it can do, if you have hardwood floors, it just destroys them. I mean, I've spent, so yeah, those are the things that you got to make sure. And then people will sneak stuff in there too. So you got to pay attention. They say, oh, I don't have any pets. And then, you drive by, you take care, look at the property. Pay attention. Is there any pets in there? Because they will lie about it.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
You got to check on your properties.
One of the questions that I have started to ask my tenants, AJ, is if you lose your job, what is your backup plan to make sure that the rent is paid?
Yep. That's a good question. And that's what another thing I like to, sometimes when you're talking to the future prospective tenant, you could ask them like, what kind of, who do you have someone that would help you out? Just like kind of like what you're saying, do you have someone to help you out? Because I like to ask, what about co-signers? Just to put it out there, if they would have a co-signer, because most people, if they have good relationships and people that are close with them, they would say, yeah, I can bring a co-signer. Then I'm like, oh, well, I might not need a co-signer, but at least you could bring one to the table if we needed it.
That's good. That's good. That's a good kind of feeler.
Right.
So Not Before 10 asks, for the work that you don't do yourself, how do you go about getting a team of people, plumber, electrician, etc.? And before he answers that question, I just want to say with the other person who was outsourcing some things and doing some things, in the 8 years that she had been doing property investing, she'd only had one trashed apartment. And it happened to be the one time where she gave a 24-hour turnaround to the incoming tenants. So when AJ says, make sure that you have great relationships, you want to stay in the game so you have great relationships to contractors. Here's a situation where she had her contractor on call and they had to flip that apartment, that 2-bedroom apartment, which had holes in the walls and everything else.
Ooh.
The carpet was damaged. They replaced the whole apartment's flooring and some walls and repainted the whole place in 24 hours. That's when you know you've got a team that works for you. Right. And I'll let you go ahead and answer.
No, that's a good point, because over the years, you meet, and it's occasionally, you meet a contractor, and a lot of contractors know other contractors. So that's always a great way. Like you meet a guy that does drywall. Hey, do you know anyone that does floors or whatever? Because they work in the industry, a lot of times they'll suggest somebody. So you meet these people over the years, and the ones that are good and reliable, those are the ones you stay in contact with. You're going to go through so many I've had so many contractors, I'll never talk to them again, because these people, unfortunately, they're just not good contractors, or maybe they're so busy they water themselves down and they don't finish the job. They move on to the next job. So I just keep the ones, and I have contractors that I had now for over 10 years that we talk all the time, because they know when I'm calling them, they know I'm going to pay them. They respect, because a lot of landlords won't pay. The contractor does the work, it's time to get paid, and the landlord's out of money, doesn't want to pay them. So that's another thing on both sides. Sometimes the contractors are pulling stuff, and sometimes the landlords are pulling stuff. So you have to have that mutual respect. And I treat my contractors with total respect because they keep me in business.
Right.
So it's important to keep those relationships strong.
Interesting. And so then how did you just find these people over time?
Yeah. I mean,
were they
I found
suggested to you? How'd you find the
I would
first
find
ones?
them from back in the day. I would go on sometimes Craigslist if I needed somebody, and I didn't have that person, that expert. And then I would always ask contractors, do they know contractors? So I built up a network of contractors, and it takes a little time. Like I said, the more knowledge you have, the better you can hire contractors because you know if they're good or not. Like when I see, people working, I know are they using the proper tools? I pay attention to do they have the proper tools? A lot of them don't. Are they doing things right by the book? So the more you know, the better you can judge if someone is a good contractor.
Right. And you don't get, so for those who are in the chat who are planning to move abroad, are living abroad, y'all know about the gringo pricing. This is equivalent to getting the tourist prices, right? When you're a newbie and they think you don't know, or maybe you're not a newbie, but you've never really investigated the how-to fix stuff up. See, my man, his daddy taught him well.
We had to learn.
His daddy taught him well. My mama said, don't marry nobody and you got to do all the fixing.
Right.
And that time I listened. I don't listen too often, but I did listen.
I'm not the plumber though. I hate plumbing.
But he can do it.
I can do it. I just don't like it. Anything to do with water scares me because water gets and goes everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a messy job, but the key is that Rick knows, and that's everything. Right.
He can do it. And that's the thing. Now, you can create a life where you don't have to do it. Okay, we're all about creating some easy life, right? But the key is to know enough so that you don't get gringo priced, right? So you don't get the newbie price, right? We live in a democratic socialist country. We have libraries and they're great. All the free movies, all my free audio books that teach me all of this stuff about financial independence, retiring early, FIRE, everything else. Yes. Some states and cities, actually cities or counties, actually you can rent tools. You can rent power tools. You can rent a lawnmower. So if you are in a city, a metro area where you don't necessarily have a space to keep all of these tools, but you do want to be that hands-on person with your investment properties, the library.
Yeah, you can read.
And YouTube is the best resource for learning how to do stuff.
And the University of YouTube.
Yeah, you learn everything.
Everything, right?
Everything. Housing, cars, anything.
Any industry.
The original Casaro. Okay, you are going to have to tell me Casa Rojo, Red House, the original Red House. I think the original Casa Rojo. Okay. Yes, I do speak Spanish. Don't I? A little bit.
You're working on it.
Baby. I'm working on it. And I couldn't see Casa Rojo.
More than me.
A selling realtor is a great resource for good contractors. Have you ever worked with realtors in that capacity, AJ?
Yeah. Sometimes they'll have, because a lot of times they're working with a property that needs to be fixed up before it's sold. So they'll tell the seller, hey, why don't we get these walls redone or whatever, and then they'll have suggestions of the contractors to use. So a lot of times now that is not always the cheapest price contractors that they're using. I've learned that too, but still they're there, and sometimes you got to pay a little more than you want to. Yeah, so that's true. Yeah, absolutely.
Especially if you have a 24-hour turnaround.
Yeah.
And some fools trashed your place,
and
right?
And speaking of a 24-hour turnaround, give us a nightmare story.
Your biggest nightmare story
speaking of 24-hour, now I have a couple Airbnbs now. So that is, you have someone in their checkout is 11, and then you have to have the place ready. Someone's checking in, and I do it. I used to do it at 3:00. Now I do 4:00. So I give myself a little bit more time. But occasionally you have people in those Airbnbs that trashed the place. You know, they had too many people over, too many drinks, and that is when you really are stressed out. I haven't had to cancel any of the future, you know, the Airbnb, the guest that was coming. I haven't had to cancel, but I've had it to where we worked our butts off in there from 11 o'clock when they checked out to 4 o'clock to get the place done. And we weren't even done by 4. I had to text the people and say, hey, can you give us another 30 minutes? And we were in there for hours trying to get the place back in shape. So those are scary.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous.
It is.
Why didn't I stay in one of your Airbnbs when we were there?
I don't remember why you didn't stay in one. I think because maybe because you guys were staying further out. I don't remember where you guys even were staying the last time you came. Oh, closer to mom and dad. See, my mom and dad live in Avon, which is a different city. And because Joe and my dad needed to hang out, they were stayed closer to them. But next time you guys come, because my Airbnbs are right by my house. So they're really convenient.
Yeah, definitely. And he has a beautiful home.
Oh my
Believe
God.
me when I tell you, he has a beautiful home. Okay, so let's get to some more questions. Oh, I said, and Casa Rojo, thank you. I've been practicing now that I'm in LA. There's more Spanish speakers than there are in Denver, believe it or not, even though Denver's like 30% Latino. There's a lot that don't speak Spanish. So I'm getting to practice here, and I'm very happy about that. How do you choose good tenants? Tell us a nightmare story.
Tenant?
Yeah. So you just did. Now, number 6.
Well,
He told us about Airbnb.
Okay. Let's hear it.
The worst story I've had was there was a lady at one of my properties, and she lived there for 2 years. She was a professional woman, and she had this is when I allowed cats. So she had some cats, and she would always pay her rent on time. Everything was fine, but I had an issue in the property that she called me about. I don't remember what it was. I think the plumbing was leaking or something. And my contractor went in there to take care of it. And he called me when he left. He said, man, I have never seen an apartment that nasty. And I was like, what's going on? He's like, man, I don't think she's cleaned up the cat poop. I don't think she's cleaned it up. So I told her that I needed to inspect his work. And I went into my property, and I could not believe it. She had some type of, maybe it was a mental illness or something but she was professional, but her thing was she wasn't going to clean up any cat poop. So I looked, and the cat poop bins had probably been, where they poop at had been filled up totally. And now the cats were just using the floors, and cats don't even like to do that, but they were forced to do it. So the whole place was just like a cat poop house.
Oh, God.
Anyways, she had to go. When she went, we had to, and there were hardwood floors. All the floors in the whole place had to be sanded down and restain everything. It was like a $9,000 situation that cost me from this lady. And I had a security deposit, which was $1,500. So as you can see, I was out. And then she moved out of state, and I didn't try to sue her or anything because she was long gone. So that was my worst story. And that was only like maybe about 3 or 4 years ago that happened. And it was beyond belief. So that is my
No
worst
wonder
story.
you don't allow cats anymore. And when you say she was a professional, what do you mean by that? Do you mean that she was an attorney or a doctor, or that she just worked in a corporate office?
She worked in like a corporate office, and her family was very successful as well. Okay. Very successful. And I'm not.
So she was like manager of something department or something like that. Not okay.
Mm-hmm.
We do. And was she Black?
No, she was not.
Okay. Because I say that, okay, y'all gonna wonder why I asked. In my life, I just find that we Black folks tend to be a lot more picky about hygiene and cleanliness. Now, mental illness aside, we just tend to be. And I go into some folks' homes, and I treat the bathroom as if I'm at a truck stop. I don't sit down. I don't touch anything. And this is in someone's private home.
Right.
I've never really seen that in a Black person's home that's an adult. Kids, yeah, like college kids, yes, of course. But as an adult, I really
Well,
haven't seen that.
I will tell you that I've had major issues with um, all ethnicities that I've
Of
come
course,
across.
of course.
And major issues where I've been in court and everything with white folks, Black folks, Mexicans. So yeah, I've seen some negative stuff on all
On
fronts.
all fronts.
Yeah, on
Yeah.
all fronts. I have.
Yeah, crazy comes in all colors.
Yep. Yep. I don't
Crazy definitely
discriminate.
comes
Yeah.
in all colors, right? And it doesn't discriminate either, right?
And I don't, and also just, perception when you first meet someone and they could be in a suit and a nice BMW, that don't mean anything anymore. It's all
Nope.
about the background investigation that I do, and get as much information before you sign that. Because once they sign that paper, they have power. They're in your place. And they could not allow you in there,
Yeah, you
all
can't just
kinds
turn
of-
around and kick them out.
So that's another
Right.
thing.
No.
Learn the laws in your
Exactly.
city and state. So he says they have a lot of power.
Mhm.
Not in every city and not in every state. In some cities and states, landlords have the ultimate power, and they have much more power than the tenants. So do your homework on that and understand, especially if you have properties in more than one state like we do, what the laws are in each state and
That's
city
true.
and county that you have a property in. Because yeah, you might be surprised what you can and cannot do.
Yeah.
You might be surprised,
Very
right?
true. Yep.
Okay, so I only have one question left, folks, and we've been on for about an hour, I think. So if you've got questions, please put them in the chat. My last question is, okay, this is a scenario question. I have saved 10,000 and I want to invest in real estate with the goal of retiring in less than 10 years. And I want my properties producing $4,000 per month. What is the first thing that I should do?
Save more money. I don't think that you can get into a property that's cash flowing. Did you say 4,000 a month?
Within 10 years.
Oh, within 10 years. Oh, so you're gonna get a portfolio of properties. I would say you need more money though. I would 10,000. Think about it. If you're required, let's say, to put 10% down, that's $100,000 property. So I would say that we need to get save some more money and then find an incredible deal. Like you said, you got something where you had equity in it. Don't rush into anything. Try to get as much money as you can, and then keep your ears open, do your research, put feelers out to everybody family, friends, realtors, whatever, and find a jewel somewhere, because they are out there. They fall in your lap. Like sometimes I get a call and it's someone that I used to know. Hey, AJ, do you still buy real estate? Because this has happened and we got this house and we don't want to deal with the realtors. Come look at it. And occasionally I get a property that way with a ton of equity in it. So you got to be ready. But I would say, the 10,000 nowadays, it's going to be tough.
Would
Right.
they, if this were their first property and they're current renters,
Mhm.
would you suggest that their first property be a multifamily home like a duplex, triplex, or because in some, like I know we've got Monica and Tracy who are in your city, AJ,
Mhm.
and their condo was under 100. So if it's their first home or something, and they can get that FHA or something where they only have to put 5% down because they've got the credit,
So
etc.
so what you just said, I would say, especially in the city like Indianapolis that has older homes, definitely a double or a tri-unit apartment. I would always stay away from condos, townhomes, anything with homeowners association
The
fees.
HOA.
Yeah, those things kill you. I used to own 5 condos in one community, and those are part of the 7 that I sold in 2017, because those HOAs, they keep going up and they cut into all your profits. So and they also go up slower than anything else. Condos and townhomes go up where single family homes go up faster. Doubles and tries, they go up nicely, but not as fast as single family homes. But the condos and townhomes, they go up a lot slower. So there's a lot of negatives about buying townhomes and condos. But yeah, definitely, if you can find a double that is always going to be the best way to go. Live in one side, and you don't have to live in there forever. Buy it, fix the other side up, rent it out for a while, and start saving up money and do it again and again. My original mentor started with 3 doubles in a place called Bloomington, where IU is. And by the time that I met him, he had 230 units. He owned a couple hotels and things like that.
Oh my!
He started with this guy was he had like a big building downtown, like 50. Yeah, he was serious. But the point is that he started with doubles, and he gave me that advice as well. Doubles are the way to go when you're starting and you don't have a lot of money. As long as you're willing to live on the one side, that's the way to go, because then you can get that discount with the bank and not put down so much money. Indianapolis, like I could tell you real quick for your viewers that live in Indianapolis, there are doubles that you can still get for 120, 130,000. They're not in the best neighborhoods, but so what? If you're willing to get into that, that's a great start. And then you get out of there. You might live in there for a while, fix it up, and then buy your next one and do the same thing again. And before you know it, and this is what my mentor told me back then. He said, if you can buy one and you're only going to make, what we say, $350 per unit at the time, that was our goal. So we did that. He said, and then the next thing you know, if you keep it up, you're going to have 10. And he said, well, how much would you be bringing in? I said, that's $3,500 a month. And then we'll say, he said, do the math on 30. And that 30 always stuck in my head. How much would I make if I had 30 units at that $350 a month? And that's where I always felt I wanted to get to. And when I got there, I was like, okay, now it's time not to just be a one-trick pony. Let me shoot into investing in other areas. And that's when I got into investing in gold, silver, and things like that. So you want to get multiple sources of income. And then once you have that income coming in, you can dive into other areas of interest that can also make you money.
Oh, okay. Indie doubles under the hood. That's from the Clubhouse for Women.
That's from Tracy and Nika. They live in Indianapolis. So another investor.
Doubles in
go ahead.
Broad Ripple.
Go ahead. Okay.
I'm gonna say, so for them, I have about maybe 4 or 5 doubles that are in Broad Ripple, and they are incredible. They're incredible. They're large. I get professional quality tenants. But I was buying those in 2007, 2008 when the real estate market was different. Now to get into doubles in Broad Ripple, you're going to be up in the 300,000 and over area, which is not a good place to start. But the hoods sometimes aren't hoods for long. I was buying properties, and then developers come in, fix up the areas, and where they were a hood, 5 years later they're no longer a hood, and you're cash flowing beautifully, and you got this beautiful double that now has been built. The area has been built up. So you got to think about areas, and you can find out about those areas too a lot of ways. What areas are being targeted by the city, and what they do is they give low interest loans to developers to go into areas. All these have fixed up. That's because the city are working with low interest loans to give developers so they can go in there and clean them up. When you find out those areas, go in there, buy them when they're cheap, and then you're going to do fine. That's
right. That's right. And so what, AJ, you were breaking up just a little bit, but the bottom line is this, folks. You all know that I ran for office. Your city council and or county commissioner, whatever the equivalent is where you live, because they're called different things, their meetings are probably online, as well as their internal meetings are probably streamed online these days, especially since COVID, if you live in a city, not a small town. So seriously, start watching those meetings, start listening to those meetings while you're doing other stuff so you can see where they're targeting. Another investor said she used to buy properties that were hood adjacent. So they were on that border of the hood where there probably were no banks and things like that, but a bunch of liquor stores. We know what they do to us, right? So it was inexpensive enough, but it was on that verge of the gentrification and the reinvestment by the city or county. So hood adjacent could be a thing. I have put up how to connect with AJ if you are interested. I saw that Black Women Build Wealth wants to connect. And so here is his information for those who want to connect. So, so you brought it up, multiple streams of income. Y'all see the beautiful earrings that I have on. Where did I get these earrings?
AJames yours.
I got those from AJames, and these are the only ones that I wear because I have to wear the real thing, and so yeah, these are what I wear every day, and I bought them from my cousin. Thank you, AJ. So tell us about your other business.
You're welcome. Well, you know, with the real estate, things went really well over time, and I was able to, you know, leave my engineering job and open up AJames Jewelry and Coin. So I started investing in gold and silver, bullion, and coins, and you know, just love it. It's a great, safe investment. And about half of my business that I do now is I work with people that are looking to invest in gold coins or silver coins. And then the other half of my business, which is there near Broad Ripple actually, is all jewelry. So a lot of it's estate jewelry, but we have new jewelry, estate jewelry, things like that. We only deal with gold, platinum, and silver. We don't do costume jewelry or anything like that. But as you create wealth, then you want to continue to learn about other ways of investing and making money. And you don't want to just stop with one because, you know, there are crashes and things that happen in one area. But if you're well versed in investing in lots of areas, I think that you protect yourself that way. And so anyone that's interested in learning about gold investing or silver investing, you can always contact me through my my information there. And I'm also doing videos on YouTube now about everything from wealth to jewelry, gold, my take on all kinds of things. So that's a fun thing that I've been doing just lately here the last couple of months that's going well as well.
You know, you said a term that when we were talking the other day that I had never heard about. And so when I was in grad school, and I was looking at this camera because I've got two cameras. So my earrings, you guys couldn't see because I was pointing at this camera. You probably thought I was crazy. Anyway, so my roommate in grad school is East Indian. And she a very, I don't know how wealthy, but pretty wealthy East Indian. She came, her and her husband now live here in the States. And this woman's gold, first of all, it was almost orange. It was so yellow. It was so pretty. And she had bangles from here to here that she wore just on graduation, but ordinarily it's just a few. And then when I looked at her wedding pictures, oh my God, the gold. And she said, you can't get good gold here in the United States because I only wear 24 karat gold. And Beyonce is the only person that I know who talks about 24 karat gold. And AJ. So you were talking about wearing your wealth and investment grade gold. So talk to us a bit about that.
So investment
even
grade,
though it's off topic.
So like in India, and you mentioned weddings because that's when they're passing down, they're giving the new couple gold, 24 karat gold or 22 or 24 karat gold, which is almost pure gold at 22 karat, and it is pure gold at 24 karat. So it's investment grade gold. It's not like buying a 14 karat gold chain like we do here in America, where it's just mainly, it is 58% gold at 14 karat, but it's mainly, you know, for looks and the beauty of it. But there in other cultures like India, China, Africa, Turkey, they're not just doing it for the beauty of it. They're doing it for the investment of gold. And we all know that gold has a 5,000-year history of never going to zero, only going up. Just like real estate, over time, it goes up. Now, the reason why you don't hear a lot about investing in gold is because gold is money, and that is competing against the US dollar. So the government is not going to preach, hey, invest in gold, because they want you to use dollars and put dollars in the bank, and everything's about dollars in the stock market. But as you can see on some of my videos, we can compare real estate to gold and the stock market to gold, and they run neck and neck. And depending on when you start, like if you were to start in the year 2020, like the year 2000 and go to 2020 or 2022, gold would beat the stock market and real estate. So it's a great investment, and it's safe, and it's liquid, and it's current. It's money everywhere in the world. So that's what I got into when I started making real money in real estate. And now I help other people learn about investing in gold for their families and for their, future. So that's what it's about.
I love it. I love it. We do have another question. AJ, are all of the properties in your name, or do you do the LLC route? And I know some people put each property in a different LLC, and some people, everybody does it differently. But what would you suggest that a person do?
So it's all up to you. Like I early on, I talked to insurance, my insurance guy at State Farm, and we talked about what is the best way to protect your real estate. Now LLC, you're trying to protect it, right? If someone wants to get hurt. So what I was always advised on was to put 3 or 4 properties in one LLC, and then move to the next 3 or 4 properties and put so you can have maybe 5 or 6 LLCs if you got 30 properties. And if something horrible was to happen, then you'll be sued, and it will be mainly stay within those properties in the LLC. If you try to do one for each and you got 30, that's a lot of LLCs to deal with everything. But some people do that. I don't. I do. I have a couple LLCs. I have some that are just in my name, depending on what my insurance guy, what we come up with our plan. So it's up to you. But I think the key is just making sure your insurance is enough to handle, people falling and stuff. Because when people find out you got real estate, you're a target. People want to pretend they got sick, or they fell down the stairs or whatever. And if you have the insurance, at least you can sleep at night and not worry about that kind of thing.
If they just would put that energy into building wealth instead of scamming.
Exactly.
There is enough to go around, folks. This is not a zero-sum game where if AJ wins, we all lose. We all get to win. That's the world we live in. We all get to win, and there is enough to go around. We all can be wealthy. Like, I just don't understand scammers. They were trying to scam my mom out of her Social Security number yesterday, and I got on the phone and they hung up. And it's sad that we have to protect ourselves against the bad guys. How many just trying to log in with the passwords and the this and the that, right?
Oh my God,
yesterday,
yes.
Talking about using credit cards as a tool. So we've got these credit cards where we can get iPhones with our points, and now they say, well, we can't. You can't get the iPhone because you're not at home, and we can only ship it to your home.
Yeah, it just made things so difficult. But
I'm not putting up with that.
Right.
This credit card costs how much per year for these points? And you can't change an address?
Yeah.
In 2022, when I just had an FBI background check by holding up my ID to the camera and holding up my face to the camera, give me a break. Give me a break. All right? Come on. So yeah, I say that to say, with these credit cards, read the fine print, because they're trying to scam us, and we're not going to put up with it. Now they're causing me stress, and I don't like stress in my life. But we're going to win, and I'll tell you how I did it once I figure it out, because we're going to do it. And this is the Chase Sapphire that we have been recommending, where you get 65,000 points just basically for signing up.
Wow.
That's free. That's free money, right? Because we got to AJ. We got to Lisbon from here, and we came out of pocket $150 a piece. LA to Lisbon.
Wow. That's incredible.
That's points.
That's awesome.
Right? You have to spend the money. So every
Right.
time you go to the grocery store, just use your card and pay it off every week. Get those points. So, with the money that you have to spend. So we are at the end of an hour and 20 minutes. We have talked about everything about real estate. We even delved in a little bit about diversifying and investing in gold, investing in jewelry, AJ has his own YouTube channel, which he talks about gold. And I've already learned so much. Never heard of Wearing Your Wealth, but it makes sense as I look at some of the other cultures that I've had the pleasure of getting to know. I get it now. I get it. And it's interesting. And we were looking at when we came back from Indianapolis after visiting AJ, we're like, okay, now how much gold are we gonna buy? And we're looking, and we were looking at our savings account and everything. We ended up putting all that money into the stock market. But the other thing is like, okay, so where do you keep the gold, AJ? Like that was our conundrum. Okay,
well,
so we're gonna buy it, and then
right.
do we have to put it in a safe deposit box? What do we do with it?
Yeah, I mean, you have some options. I would not put it all in one place, to be honest. If you have a lot of gold, I would say have a safe somewhere secure in your own home. But also, yeah, safety deposit box. That's a good idea as well. So you want to break it up because sometimes the banks close and you don't have access to even get into the bank. We saw that with Corona. My bank closed for a while. I couldn't even get into it. So you want to have some as well that you have access to. So find somewhere safe, hopefully in your home. And pay attention to not telling people where it is, because your gold will walk away if people know where it is. So be careful.
Keep honest people
So
honest.
that's right. So that's the only thing so that you got to keep in mind when you're diversifying and actually buying physical gold, as opposed to investing in, I don't know, a company that mines gold or whatever. Okay, so Professor LCH says, I'm awful with credit cards. They are my quicksand. I got out of nearly all of my debt with them. Then I learned about points in international travel. Any tips on how to train oneself out of carrying? Yeah, and not carrying that balance. Yes, Professor LCH, because that was us. And don't you know, not more than a month and a half ago, Rick's like, well, we can just pay it, some next month. And I was like, I looked at him. And he's like, old habits, old habits, old habits.
Yeah.
So we suggest every week you pay it off. Every week you go in and you pay it off every week, or every payday. So every payday, pay whatever is there. They're not going to like you, but you will develop the habit, and it feels so good. That zero balance feels so good. But we need, when I found out about the points, rewards, and international travel and all of that, and really started utilizing them as a tool, then yeah, we had to get our discipline together too, so that we collectively wouldn't go right back to where we started.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. And it's just a frame of mind that you have to really, really put in place. But, don't go out and spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars if you can't pay it off. Just, take baby steps. Take baby steps. Like she said, go to the grocery store, buy some groceries, pay it off when it's time to do. And you can build that up within a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever time they give you to get those points that you want to get.
Yeah.
But don't try to get them all at once and then have a $4,000 or $5,000 bill and figuring out, okay, I don't have that.
Yeah. And a lot of them, they want you to spend $4,000 in a certain amount of time. Like I think Chase wants you to spend $4,000 within 3 months or 4 months or something like that. So if your monthly budget cannot handle that, that's not the card for you, right? Like if you don't spend $1,000 per month, if it's 4 months, on things that you could charge ordinarily, right? So maybe your tags are coming up on your car to get your license plate. In California, that's really expensive. That's like $200-$300 right there, right? You have to pay that. Put that on the card. Go ahead and pay it off at the end of the week. All of the stuff that you would normally buy. We did not buy anything that we would not normally buy in the course of a day, however it goes. So that's what we suggest. I know some people pay it off. I know a lady who said that she would come home and pay it every day, every time she used it.
Wow.
Do what works for you, boo. Right? Like do what works for you. And I'm sure she probably doesn't have to do that anymore because that was a couple of years ago. But You know what that freedom
Whatever gets
feels
you,
like.
yeah,
You
whatever
know what
gets
that
you in that
freedom
frame
feels
of
like.
mind.
Yep. Professor LCH, you know what it feels like, and I know you don't want to give it up. I know you don't want to give it up. So, so we are going to definitely close out. For those of you, you know, we have Beyond the Bling going, so we have got to jump off and start our class with our students. Beyond the Bling is our group coaching for couples and folks who want to get their money straight and retire like now. That we won't be doing another one probably until the end of the year. But in the meantime, you can get our Ready to Retire toolkit. Time to build that hidden room in the basement for all the gold, right? Casa Rojo, right? But yeah, hardcore. It is hardcore. If you pay it off every week, right? You do what you got to do. Do what you got to do. I'm going to just get to the last of these for the hidden room in the basement and stuff. They are chatting amongst each other. I love our community. They are so great.
Yes.
They are so great. So if you would like our Ready to Retire toolkit, it is free. It's in the description and we are putting it up right here. It's just bit.ly/ready to retire toolkit. And it will give you step-by-step what we did to retire within basically 3 years. And depending upon where you are, you can do it quicker, or maybe it will take you a bit longer. But you will get also a series of emails that will walk you through that workbook. And it's like a mini class. So that's our Ready to Retire toolkit right there. And of course, I'm going to put Andrew's information back up there. So if you want to get in touch with Andrew, AJ, about real estate investing and or about gold investing, if you've got an estate and you need someone to tell you how much it is worth, how much that jewelry is worth, AJ is your man. And you know he's honest because he's on this show. So,
right.
and he's a Vinson, so you know that's the only way we roll. That's the only way we roll, right? We because we don't want to mess up our blessings with some nonsense. Mm-hmm. So we keep it straight, we keep it honest and full of love. And you want to also follow him on YouTube. He is AJames on YouTube. Don't confuse him with this other weird AJames. Look for the one with the swag. That's him.
There you go. That's me.
That's him, right? If you want to book a one-on-one time with us, it's just ourblackutopia.com/let's talk. What are we going to talk about next week? Do you remember?
Do I remember what we're going to talk about next week now?
He don't remember. He hates when I do this to him. And I do it every week.
We're going to talk about something.
We're going to talk about planning for Portugal. So next weekend is our last weekend in Los Angeles, California. And then that Tuesday or Wednesday, we are headed to New York and then to Portugal, Lisbon, and then Cascais and Coimbra. And we'd love to take you along with us to Portugal. So hopefully you will follow us. We'll tell you everything that we are doing to prepare for this exploratory trip. What we are going to be looking for apartments and everything else to see if this is a place where we want to live at least 6 months out of the year, if not forever.
We'll see.
Are you going to come visit us, Andrew?
And which one of those places? There's so many places going.
In Portugal.
Portugal, absolutely. I've always wanted to go there. So yeah, we'll definitely come out and visit for sure.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, everyone. Once again, AJames Jewelry and Coin. Look him up. We will put all of the information in the description below. If you are watching in the replay, hi, let us know where you're logging into from.
Yes.
Ask questions. If we can answer them, we will. If not, we will pass them on to AJ and you will get an answer when he gets around to it. That's why you got to catch us live. That's why you got to catch us live. So hopefully I'll have an answer. Or you can go over to his YouTube channel and ask him a question at AJames. And I'm sure he will answer those questions much more quickly than coming over to this broadcast. Well, we did it, folks. Yay, we did it. We did it. If you want to invest in real estate and retire early, he has just given you the formula. It's not easy, but it is doable. You don't need to have all kind of degrees and all of this. Do not psych yourself out. Do not let those folks make you think that this thing is not accessible and that you don't have what it takes to do it, because you do.
Just educate yourself. Be careful about the decisions you make, and look into it. There's too much information out there today for you to fail.
That's right.
Everything is set up for you to succeed, but make sure you're set up for you to succeed. Unlike
when we were young and you had to go look in an encyclopedia, Britannica. Remember those days? We remember those days. All right, guys, we love you so much. If you like this information, please hit the like button. AJ, stay on. Please subscribe, hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you will know when we go live. And that way you can come in, ask your questions live, get your answers from the experts. We bring them here to you. Subscribe, like, and we'll see you next week.
Remember, we're not financial
advisors.
We're financial educators.
That's right. That's right. Our attorney is going to make us say that. We are financial educators. Always have your own plan. Always do your own research. Educate yourself. See you guys.
Bye-bye.